G'day from Fiji. I'm Linda.
And I'm Craig.
And we are True North Genius Alignment Coaching. And we're here today to have a bit of a chat about a phase of creating when we're going for something in our lives, and it's called the germination phase. And it's a pretty cool thing to get an understanding of, isn't it?
Yeah, it's otherwise you're just unaware of what's going on, and it can really help to know what are the dynamics that are at play when we're creating. For that understanding, it allows us to be a bit more conscious about how we're going about things. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, as you're probably aware from your own experience, when you've got something that you are going for, something you'd really love to create in your life, there is a lag time. Like, it doesn't just show up, does it? And and that's totally fine, because we really want to refine what it is that we're going for, have that opportunity to do so, and even to explore imaginatively what it would be like to have it, because that in itself is part of the process of really helping us come to terms with what that is. Because in a way, when you have these cool things you want to go for, as much as you think you want it, there's a part of you that doesn't want it, isn't there?
There is, yes. And brings up resistance in relation to not only the having of it, but also getting it, what's going to be involved in that, and that aspect of yourself that is resisting that change. Doesn't know how, doesn't think that it's in you to create these things, and it is.
Absolutely. And so, if that gets the power, you actually won't get anywhere further than that. It'll just have been a nice idea, and that was cool. I entertained that once upon a time, but sort of gave up on it, and that's simply because the ego's just decided that there's not enough gain for what it's going to take to create the thing or have the thing or whatever. So that does often get the power, even just in the germination phase. So it never really gets off the ground. Or maybe you started writing the book and you got a few pages into it, and then it's sort of like it's gone. Or you started painting the painting and it's not looking the way you think it should look, and it's gone. Or some people don't even get that far. It's just it's just an idea, continues to ruminate in their head, and it doesn't really get very far.
Yeah, and often you'll see or hear people say it just wasn't meant to be. And it's never true that it wasn't meant to be. If you discover something that's true for you, and you feel that inner nudge towards as an undertaking, then it is for you to create. But more true than it not being meant to be is that what got the power was all of the ideas, the concepts that aspect of you that brings up the resistance believes is true about you and about what you're looking to create, and that it's not possible, and so that's what got the power. That's why it didn't get created. There wasn't the follow through on it, not because it wasn't meant to be.
But if you put that germination phase to good use, you can practice being in your imagination with it, can't you? You can visualize it, you can feel it, you can get a sense of what it's like to live that, and in a way it sort of has our ego feeling a little safer with the whole process, and it's maybe not as bad as what we initially thought it would be. And in fact, there is a payoff that we would actually love to experience from creating that thing. So that's one of the first things that we get to use our germination phase for, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's also, when we're creating things, it really is about what takes place along the journey of creating things. So there's shifts and changes that happen within us when we stand for what we're creating, what's true for us, what we're going for. And it's expansive. Creating by nature is an expansive thing for us to do. It's very natural for us to do as well. But we'd never really want to just snap our fingers and have the thing, because we miss out on so much, wouldn't we? It's an expansion, like a growthful thing for us to create things in our lives because of what takes place in the creating of it.
So even though you will be the same person when you've created it that you are now, so you're not at risk of becoming an asshole or an arrogant person or whatever. You are who you are. You live your true nature anyway. But at the same time, that growthful expansiveness allows you to really get an essence of who you really are, don't you? It's more about a remembering more than a becoming, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you get to really come through that process. So Yeah. And the other thing that the germination phase allows for is for a sense of, working with tension, working with positive expectation, and how to have things unfolding over this thing we call time. Time is a reality that we live in, isn't it? It's a dimension of our life. And when we learn to master and use time as a tool, it works very much in our favour. And again, when we have something that we perceive is going to happen in the future, or we're going to create in the future, we have the opportunity to work with that too, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's one of those things that we generally have a misconception around, the resource of time, and that is that there's never enough of it usually. We use it as a great excuse to not go for what we love and not follow through and all of this sort of thing. There wasn't the time. But the truth about time is that it's far more flexible than we've come to believe it is. And what you'll find is that when you start to assume that it is more flexible, okay, maybe I don't know how that is or how that works, but maybe I can, because already we're assuming that it's limited. So that's an assumption we're making, that it's an unquestioned assumption. And so when we make a conscious assumption about maybe time's a bit more flexible than I thought it was, then you'll start to see that, where you thought you didn't have time to arrive somewhere, you still did. And it's like, well, how does that work, and you'll just see it magically flexing and bending. And when you start to really lean into that new assumption, you'll find that, as Linda's saying, it supports your creating. So things open up and become more spacious in your life, so that your creating feels like it does fit. It all fits, and it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, with time, if we're using it dysfunctionally, or we're in a dysfunctional relationship with it, we'll use it as evidence against ourselves. So what I mean by that is, when we have this thing that we're going for and we don't see any evidence of anything happening in favour of that, we start to go, oh, well, everything's against me, or I can't do this, or we really put the stacking of things against what we believe beforehand that we could create. Now it's like off the table. It's like, no, this is getting harder. And what we're trying to avoid really is future disappointment, because we think if it never happens, then I'm going to be really disappointed. So maybe I just don't want this thing. Maybe I'll just let that whole thing go, and then I don't have to look at the evidence that it's not happening. Whereas in actual fact, it's probably still just in germination phase. There's still things orchestrating that need to happen before it can actually fully manifest into something. Just like a seed that's planted in the ground. We don't plant the seed and then 3 days later run out and dig it up and see if it's been, shooting shoots, or if there's anything happening or whatever, and then we cover it over again, and then we'll dig it up again a week later and see what's happening. Because if we do that, what's going to happen to the seed? It's going to be stress. It's going to possibly even die because of the damage or the stress of going through that process on a regular basis. We just plant the seed and we assume it's going to grow. And so being a little patient with our creations is really important, and not patient to the point where we just forget about it or we become unattached to it. We actually would prefer to create that end result, and we can have that positive expectation that's going to come about, don't we?
We do, yeah. Patience is it's another thing that we have a belief around, is that patience is about setting something in motion and then kind of jumping on the couch, cracking open the CCs and crossing your fingers. It's like, oh. But it's not that. What we refer to is active patience. And so active patience means that you assume things, the wheels are turning in the background. Even if you can't see evidence of that happening, you make that assumption, and it's quite true. And then when there is something for you, some natural action for you to take that's in alignment with what you're creating, that you expect to see that, and when you do, you lean into that, you take that action. And so you can be being actively patient, that can see you taking action, but it can see you just being aware and daily, connecting with the vision of what you're creating and that sort of thing. So not necessarily, taking action in relation to it, but being actively involved still in a patient way.
Yeah, because if we fill ourselves up with the, oh, how am I going to make this happen, or I must do something towards that thing, or, and we just tend to throw a whole lot of things into the basket of what I should do or could do or would do in order to create this thing, it actually gets really noisy and it can become really overwhelming, and you miss the cues that were really the magical cues, those little things that were really designed to help you along the way. So in the active patience state, what we can do is we can let it all just be there, positively expecting to have something revealed to us. That maybe it's a random thought that comes to you, or a chance meeting with somebody, or you're actually in the flow of something. It's, oh yes, that's what I need to do next. Like it really has a resonance to it of these actions that are taken that allow us to then put more of that unfolding into play. And so it's a really interesting state to be in, because there's no real urgency to it, but there's an expectation that things are going to come in and support you along the way, and it'll happen with flow and ease and really amazing timing too.
So this is, having awareness around the germination phase, that it's not the only phase.
No.
There's other key phases as well. But we really wanted to just share about this particular phase, because I think that's one of those areas where it can see people giving up, on what they're creating, because they're misinterpreting what they're seeing or not seeing or whatever, and they're making that mean something. For example, it wasn't meant to be, I'm out.
Yeah.
But as a result, there's a cost to that. There's a cost to not understanding the dynamics, and that is usually that we don't get to create what we love in our lives, and we wonder why. Why is it other people are able to do that and not me? And then we make that mean something about us. I'm somehow fundamentally flawed, and I don't get to have what I love, and it's not true. All for the sake of having some understanding around germination phase.
Absolutely. Yeah, and as soon as we do that and we make it personal, it's almost game over, really.
Yeah.
Well, all for the sake of reorientating back into, hey, I'm in the wrong structure. I'm in my orientation of my identity and what I'm making it mean about me and everybody else. Stop. If you ever catch yourself there, just stop it and just go, okay, can I bring myself back into the structure of creating with? Even if it's just simply reminding yourself, hey, this is in germination phase. My only job right now is to hold positive expectation and that active patience. And when the moment comes, when I know exactly the next thing to do or be or see, I'll know. It'll be right there. It'll be evident, and I'm expecting to see it. And it will be. Yeah, it will. So, yeah, good talk.
Good talk.
Excellent. All right. So, hope you have fun on your path to finding your true north. I'm Linda.
I'm Craig.
And we'll see you next time.
See you then.